Welcome to East Coast DNA. I'm your host, Darcy Walsh, and today's guest is actually completing a little bit of a circle for me that maybe some of my viewers aren't aware that I do, but I do try to keep it somewhat balanced as much as I can longer term with the regions that we're covering in the East Coast. And although I have been dipping outside of the East Coast with some Montreal and Ontario artists, a lot of 2025 I've covered Prince Edward Island. And being a Nova Scotia based media outlet, I've covered some Nova Scotia people more recently. So today I'm completing my checklist for 2025. I have somebody calling in from New Brunswick, but Mark, I believe you're originally from Newfoundland.
Yeah, that's right. And you're covering a lot of ground because I also lived in Halifax for a while.
Well, there you go. Perfect. So welcome, Mark McLaughlin.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I was tempted to try to say it as McLaughlin and kind of riff from there, but I didn't think I could get back on track after that.
Get that? It happens half the time.
So we do occasionally on the show. I do kind of. I think it's because of my own East Coast upbringing. Occasionally, when I hear names, especially when I'm getting into like a Scottish name and I'm from New Glasgow in Nova Scotia,
Yeah.
I know how to say them, but I'm usually like, where'd that come from? So Newfoundland is where you were kind of born and raised.
Yeah, definitely. I spent most of my like 0 to 20
Okay.
in Newfoundland. Yeah.
So I do also know that as a musician, so I guess it'd be fair to call you a singer-songwriter. Is that your preferred label?
Yeah, I guess now. Yeah, I never used to see it like that, but now it is.
Yeah, yeah, and I could see that with the research that I did. Like you're not marketed that way, but I guess technically, if I was writing a recap
Mhm.
or my own little description, I think I would go right there at where you are now. So in the past, kind of for context for the people who are not already familiar with you, in the past you were involved in a number of different projects as well. So maybe if we go back a little bit to give a little people a little bit of your bio. Did you start music? Must have been at a younger age. So did you actually start in Newfoundland?
Yeah. I mean, playing. I'm from a small town in Newfoundland. Like I played, high school talent shows, that kind of stuff. But like St. John's, I moved there for university, and
Okay.
that's like where I say I cut my teeth, I guess, playing. Like and starting to record music and things like that. Yeah,
And you definitely, like I said, were involved with a number of different things. I think I remember Strong Boy, but where was that out of? Was that
they're,
from Fredericton?
yeah, they're all from Cape Breton, but
Oh, okay.
they're based in Halifax.
I could have been at a show for all I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Like who knows? So, what era would that have been? Like how far back are we going?
Strong Boy is not well. It's not. I'd say it's not that far back, but I guess it's like 2017, 2018, which
Okay.
is a while back now. I guess.
So that yeah, and I mean, there's before and after the kind of dark time in our history here with everyone being
Yeah,
stuck in
yeah.
lockdown. But so I guess that kind of makes sense too with what I was researching because I do have a lot of bands that come on that were kind of formed in those years, and then they were newer bands. And actually, we will get into a little bit of your upcoming tour dates because I know that you're kind of in the middle of a tour.
Yeah,
But some of those artists you're actually performing with on the tour, so
cool.
that's
Yeah.
kind of an interesting little nod there too. But yeah, you kind of had a career of performing with bands, but coming out of all of this, you have been marketing yourself as Marc McLaughlin, and you've had the same kind of pattern that I've seen with it seems to be the digital era of music where you release a couple singles and then an EP. So you've got a newer EP that would be your second under your belt now, and that would have been just released back in the fall.
Yeah, the new one. What is this? Almost a month ago. Like not even a
Oh,
month.
okay, okay, just this new year. So, what can you tell me about the differences between, like, obviously, it was a new path for you to kind of do it more so as a solo,
Mhm.
and then you've been doing that for a couple years. So, did you find any difference between when you were launching yourself under a new kind of brand And
right.
now you have that a couple years under your belt, and obviously you have a good network built based on the artists that you're performing with and the locations that you're getting to, because you have a quite extensive tour.
Mhm.
So what happened in those years in between, like development wise for you as Marc McLaughlin, the soloist?
Yeah, yeah, nice. That's yeah. So I've when I mentioned first starting to play in St. John's, I mean, it was a similar thing. I just put music out, like did it myself, and just stuck it up on the internet, and I just
Hmm.
went by Blue, the name Blue.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
I was like shy. I didn't want my name associated with it. But I was also learning. I like played drums and recorded a song for the first time, and was like, I'm gonna put this out. So a couple years of that, like figuring that stuff out. Uh, and yeah, then I mentioned, I mean, that was 4 or 5 years, I guess, in St. John's. I moved to Halifax, played with Strong Boy and another band called Nomadic Homes.
Okay.
I think we did tour as Blue with the Halifax crew backing me up. It would have been like 2018. And then I remember like putting it away for a bit and just kind of working on new stuff and
Hmm.
then getting ready. Finally, it was like, oh, I'm gonna like get back into it, like early 2020, I think, like get a band together. And then that didn't happen. There was like a quiet period, 2018, 2020,
Hmm.
and then when I was ready to come back, it didn't. It wasn't possible really to tour and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, just so much time had passed. I think I did put out an album as Blue somewhere in there, 2019 maybe. Just and again, it's all just like doing it, throw it on the internet.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And really a lot of the artists, like I'm saying, I had a lot of artists that were new, but the artists that have been more established, especially in the more recent episodes, I've been asking them to offer some advice, and the path that you followed the last couple of years is 100% what they're saying you should do. So, and it's working for you. So
Okay, good, good. That's great to hear. Yeah, so yeah, just continuing where it was then. I guess that the just so much time had passed. I guess
yeah.
the world changed, and I mean, like song writing and tastes changed, of course, because that happens. And then I just wanted to separate from the more the learning. I mean, always learning, of course, every day,
Yeah.
but separate myself from the early the name of Blue, and I'll just
Hmm.
use my name now. I'm like older and yeah, know a little more what I'm doing. I guess I'm not gonna say
Hmm.
I entirely know what I'm doing, but more than I did. So yeah, call it like a rebrand, I guess. But
Yeah.
it is kind of the same thing. Like I'm just doing it at a lot at home.
Hmm.
Difference with this release though, um, I got better at applying for money to help
Yeah.
do these kinds of
Okay.
things, and so I was able to get into a studio. I was in Fang Recording there in Dartmouth.
Yes, I saw that too. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that also just it steps it up. Working with yeah, Thomas was the engineer in there, but even just funding to do like pay someone to make artwork and make music videos, and I think that is a pretty like it separates the previous project where
Yeah.
yeah, even the artwork I don't I dabble in like I have Illustrator now, Adobe
Hmm.
Illustrator, but I'm definitely not a designer. Yeah, just so it's funny that I switched it to my name, which sounds more like a solo project, but now I'm like collaborating with people more than ever.
Hmm.
Not as much in the music, but like in all the other surrounding aspects, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that's one time I did want to ask you, as far as like you say, is not as with the music as much.
Mhm.
So when I listen to your songs, obviously you're a multi-instrumentalist and
Mhm.
you're capable of performing all of the parts. But when you're performing live,
Mhm.
like what do people get from a show on your tour right now? Like, are you up on the stage solo, or do you have a traveling group of performers with you that are a backup band?
Right. So I do have a band now. I did a little bit of touring in 2023 when I put it in EP. I just by myself and I had like a
Hmm.
laptop. I tried to keep it sparse with I didn't want it to be karaoke, but
Yeah, yeah.
some tracks. But yeah. So this tour is there's four of us. Yeah. So it is, and it's the first time I've really done that. We played like twice over the last few months, but
Okay.
this is the first. Uh, yeah, showing really.
And are those people Fredericton or Halifax based? Or are
Uh,
they all over?
they're all in Fredericton. I think they're actually all
Okay.
from Fredericton. Paul's from near St. John, I think, but they're all like from New Brunswick.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I'm in Fredericton now. Also, yeah.
Yes. And so how did it come about that you have this tour? Because I'm aware of who you are and the people that you're performing with, but when I look at the tour dates,
Mhm.
and we'll specifically get into the upcoming East Coast dates because we want people to go out and buy some tickets.
Yeah.
But when I look through, you're playing a variety of venues, like all over the place.
Mhm.
But you also have a wide variety of supporting acts that are on those bills with you. It looks like you were able to find people in those locations.
Right.
So, is this another thing where you have some people that are working with you that were able to help you build that network for the tour, or are these people that you've collaborated with before, and therefore it was like, "Hey, man, do you want to come play with me when I'm in town?"
Right. That's I'm like blanking on. I've been playing with a ton of acts. I'm trying to think of them all.
Yeah,
I don't think at least for the Ontario and Quebec shows, I don't think I actually know any of them personally.
yeah, okay,
I think if I'm maybe there's one that I do, but it's all like I would have had connections from playing there years ago, touring.
sure.
Like I toured the Blue Project um, and more recently with Kelly McMichael also
Oh, okay, yeah,
in her band, um, which is kind of what got me back into touring again. That was in the fall. I was like, oh, this is great. I want to do this for myself. But what are they saying? Yeah, so not so much that it was like, hey, do you want to play this show with me? Like I remember you from years ago, but it was a result of connections made a long time
yeah.
ago, and a couple of venues I played at with whether with my own stuff or in other bands. So like, no, oh, I know that's a good venue. I want to play there. Yeah,
Mhm.
so it is past experience that I just kind of knew where to go. But the band specifically, yeah, it's not really not no one I really know personally. Just music that I found through acquaintances and thought was cool.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so maybe we should just list those off now. Do you happen to have them there for reference, or do we need to pause
I,
for a second?
I can maybe get them.
Yeah. So while you're doing that, the East Coast tour dates, when I was looking, it couple double fold. I'm doing it as a research step, but also where I am physically located on the
Mhm,
East Coast. I like to see how close I am to people when they're going around. Never know when I get a chance to pop into a show.
mhm,
So that was the first thing that popped out to me, was the bands that you were playing with, because there's a few that are known to me and a few that are not known to me, but it's more so that I could technically follow you around and catch different bands every day for like a couple weeks. So like that's for someone like myself that's what I do. Like
right, right.
I was like, wow, that would be a cool tour. It was
Yeah,
exciting to me as a fan too. So
yeah,
yeah, where's the East Coast states start off?
yeah. The first one is here. So
Yep.
this tomorrow we're leaving and doing the Ontario, Quebec, and then next week there's like a little bit of a break, and the March 20th we play here in Fredericton at the
Hmm.
Cat. Um, I could say who's playing. My friend Oscar is playing. Oscar Tecu from Chill Teens and Little Omar,
Hmm.
and Sam Salmon, also in Motherhood. That's Bryden. Um,
Yes.
and then the next Friday is Sportsmans. That's Charlottetown.
And
Yeah,
funny, I'll stop you there just for 1 second, just because of
yeah.
personal, where I just did the PEI's Music Week.
Cool.
So I was over there with Music PEI for the whole week, but I did at one point step outside of their activities and I hopped over to Sportsman's because I hadn't actually been before.
Cool. Cool.
And coincidentally, the opening act that night was Green Eyes Witch Hands.
Cool. Okay.
And one of the showcases for Music PEI was Space Bud, who's also performing
Cool.
with you that night. So
Great.
that's the Sportsman's date. I'm not suggesting that none of the other dates are good. Like I said, that I'll be great, but that Sportsman's one, I'm jealous that I'm not still in Prince Edward Island for that
Yeah.
performance. So
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
kind of half thinking maybe I could drive back over.
Yeah. I feel the same way about like every show. Also, like I'm like
Yeah.
I would just I mean, take me out of the equation, and I'm like, I'm still gonna go to this show.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's amazing.
Very excited to see a lot of the bands.
So
Like I
you
said,
headed to Halifax after that one?
oh, right, sorry, yeah. So Charlottetown, Sportsmans Friday 21st, and then the last show of the tour is Halifax Saturday at Gus's Pub with
Okay.
Andrea Cormier and Postfun, and again 2 bands that I just
Yeah.
think are cool.
And Postfun has been on this show, I think a couple times maybe now. If I've definitely covered them a few times because they were early supporters of the show. So definitely a fan. I've caught them live a few times.
Yeah,
So I did note them there as well when I was going through because your sound definitely fits in with what I know of their sound.
cool. Yeah,
But I'm curious, like, as an East Coaster, I know a lot of bands that when I kind of vibe with the sound that they have, I realize that some of it's because of my upbringing and having that Halifax kind of indie
yeah.
sound kind of in my teenage bones. So I know that there's a little bit of that influence in some of our East Coast scene these days, but that's not exactly the vibe. Like I get that more so from like an Absolute Losers or Gizmo or something like that. And I kind of mentioned that to the Space Bud crew there when I was talking to that I kind of got a little bit of vibe of that.
Mhm.
But I found that like Post Fun and like Sleepy Kicks and a few of those other bands are off a little bit of their own sound that
Right.
maybe is closer to some of what the Western Canadian bands are playing, but where your specific influence is coming from, like when you're writing, are you even aware of where maybe you're getting some of that influence, or is it just your own personal vibe that's coming out?
Right. I mean, I'd love to say that it's just all me. No,
Yeah. Yeah. Who
no
wouldn't?
influence. I Yeah, it's so hard. Like people sometimes they just like meet someone new and like, what kind of music do you like? And I just like so much. So just I would just say everything, but
Yeah.
I usually just say the Beatles. Oh, I like the Beatles. Like
Sure.
I don't know where to start. Like it's not an easy question. But for in terms of influence, yeah, it's even hard for me to pinpoint. I
Well, I
had
could almost see Beatles with a little bit extra experimentation over top of it to
Yeah,
make it a little bit more modern.
yeah. One of the 2 shows we played, the last one was at Shivering Songs in Fredericton, and I had someone after was like, "Oh, you must really like '80s music," and I thought, "Well, I do," and I didn't know that that came through.
Yeah.
We were talking more, and um, they were talking about bands like The Cure, but even more like obscure bands that I didn't even know, and I was like, "Oh, I'll check them out," which I forgot to do.
Yeah.
Like, what is funny, like when I heard '80s music, I was thinking like Herbie Hancock and like Donald Fagen, like Steely Dan's. That's like things I've been listening to more lately.
Hmm.
Uh, I just thought it was funny that like that to '80s that stuff's coming through, but I was like, oh, of course you mean like the guitar based music. That makes way much more sense.
That would make sense. But I do suspect without knowing that person, it's the same as me where like my brain goes towards the stuff that I know
Yeah, yeah,
as far as like, oh, that sounds like that's what our brains are all trying to do is like, oh, this is like this.
yeah.
So I think
I mean,
we're
I like
probably hear it.
yeah. Yeah,
So
no, I'm glad about that too. Like, I mean, I'm a fan of all those bands. I was like, oh, I'm excited that this like funkier music that I'm really into is coming through. But I was like, oh, that's not true. It's it's the guitar influence, which is cool too.
oh yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the music video and the this kind of go round, you were a little bit more thinking ahead funding wise, so you were able to have a little bit more tools at your disposal. So you had a crew for the music video,
Mhm.
and it did come out like super. I don't know. I wish I had a better word than professional looking because I also have contributed to some music videos, and I'd hate to somebody to be describing that I wasn't professional looking, I guess. But very slick, clean video. And I was wondering, I mean, give shout outs to the people that worked on it with you, but what kind of process went into building that? Was it just like, did you have a concept in mind, or was that something that the team brought to you when you?
Yeah, no, not me at all. All the
Okay.
team. The director was Gwyneth Christoffel, who's from Halifax actually.
Hmm.
Lives in Toronto with her partner Jack Leahy, who is a filmmaker, DOP, camera guy. And I had shot one just myself and Jack. with the older release in 2023. It was just me and him, like bumping
Mhm.
around Toronto. So I know him from Halifax, him and Gwyneth, um, and they moved there. And we're friends first, and but they're really talented, so
Yeah,
just
yeah,
makes
that's the
sense to
best.
go, yeah, to work with them. So yeah, we didn't have a director the first with the older video, it was just kind of me and Jack. But then the one that you're referring to, uh, Gwyneth directed it, and I was just totally people have gotten compliments. Oh, I love this thing you did in the video. I'm like, I was being told what to do by Gwyneth.
There's a time and a place when it's just time to like get someone to tell you how to do it. Like somebody that you like their work
Yeah,
and you trust them that they're gonna do something good with you. So
yeah,
definitely that's the whole spirit of collaboration. I think if you go in with that mindset instead of thinking in the mindset like, well, I have 100% of the vision, everyone needs to do what I say.
yeah,
You're bringing your piece to it and letting them focus on what they do too. So it sounds like it was a good project. It definitely, like I said, the end result came out very, very high quality, which
yeah,
that was the first thing because I watch a lot of independent music videos, and like I said, where I've contributed on some, they all look great, but that one, I think it's because of like the clean background and everything. Like you just really pop out in it. So definitely kudos to your team.
yeah.
It was if I was watching it in a set of East Coast videos, that one definitely would have stuck out to me. So
Nice.
definitely want to give you props there where it's due.
Sounds.
So the new material that you have out,
Mhm.
you have a single from that now.
Yeah.
And I think you were purposely trying to make me say it wrong by putting too many letters in the name. So what is the single?
Is this one Effervescence? Is that the one?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So tell me about the song itself then.
Yeah, that one. I mean, if you're gonna call me singer-songwriter, that's probably a good one to display. Also,
Yeah.
it's pretty for me bare bones. Just acoustic guitar and drums, bass. There's a little bit of synths and stuff in there, but um, yeah. I mean, a lot of songs don't have as much of a direct narrative. This one kind of does compared to others. I guess it's more just talking about decisions that you make in your life, like with no idea of a bigger plan or anything. You're just kind of choosing whatever. I want this. I want that. I want to go here, and then hopefully you end up somewhere you're happy to be.
Yeah.
In this song, the opposite happens. I mean, the song is just kind of reflecting on it, but by the end of it, the narrator is not happy with where they ended up. But then they're like, "Well, the one thing that I do have is just love that I shared throughout." So like kind of a love grounds us, or love conquers all idea, I guess.
It's a nice overall narrative, especially because a lot of us do kind of get caught up in that. You kind of much like yourself, you have so many activities on the go that are involved in something, especially when you're involved in something that's flexing a creative part of your mind.
Hmm.
You can go in so many different directions. Sometimes you kind of lose focus of where you're headed because you're so
Yeah.
stuck in the now. So I definitely appreciate the overall narrative of that. As you had mentioned, though, as far as the diversity in your sound and where you don't 100% immediately think singer-songwriter when you think of yourself.
Right.
What is kind of the creative process in going into a song that, like I said, you're capable of doing all the instrumentation,
Hmm.
but you can't do that live. So I'm trying to think of how, and I know a few examples of some solo people that do it. So I know that there is not a formula. Nobody does it the same. Everyone has their own process. So do you start off writing out some lyrics, or is it more so that you're experimenting with some synth sounds and then you're layering some guitar, or where do you start off with a song?
It definitely varies. Like I have some traditional sense where you sit down like a guitar or a piano, and it's best if the words and the song come at the same time, because
Yeah.
and like you have this little blast of a writing session, and then after that it's like, oh yeah, this is pretty, like, it's done. You can move things around, but you have the full idea. So it's always best when that happens. But I mean, there are, yeah, it's also happened like I'm just noodling around and oh, that's cool. And you kind of create just the music and then have to put in the words after, which can be harder, I think.
Yeah.
But I've also had lyrics where, oh, this, I, I need like to sing this a certain way. Like, so kind of, yeah, I'll do it anyway. Yes, but I do think the best is when you do it all, everything at once, the music, the lyrics. Yeah, it's the best end result.
So outside of the lyrics, I'm also curious when I'm listening, like example, like when I'm listening to something where you're playing acoustic and then I hear like a little bit of like an overlaid synth or something, and it was like almost, I know it's music, but it's almost like a musical sound effect added in sometimes.
Mhm.
Like, so I know some artists that like to do that type of thing, and you can almost get like a unique signature from specific artists when you've been listening to them enough that you can tell, like, oh, this person worked on that song because they do
Right,
that type of thing.
right.
So the vibe that I get overall, it sounds like if I was watching you live, that there's a chance that if the band's really in sync and feeling it, the lyrics might disappear for a while and the song might end up being an extra few minutes long where you're just kind of jamming on, not necessarily like a funk band jam, which some people
Right.
would right away, but like soundscapes. Like do you play with that type of thing, like different effects and stuff where you're kind of going with the flow of that? Like I find a lot of people do that improvisational.
Hmm. Right.
So is that the type of thing that you do as well?
In my past
Yeah.
projects, that was such a huge part. Like you'd see the band live, and it would become more like a what's the genre, like post rock, like
Yeah.
atmospheric, and very jammy. This band is not so much. I mean, there's a little bit. Um, like we have a lot of keyboards around, so there's a couple moments where I'm like, yeah, like let's like you're saying, like kind of make a bit of a soundscape.
Hmm.
Let the keyboardists have their moment. Um, but yeah, I definitely wouldn't call it jammy for now.
Yeah.
Could also be because we're a newer group. Like we haven't played. We've only played a couple shows together.
Sure.
We'll see. Ask me this question three-quarters of the way through the tour
Yeah,
and
yeah, exactly.
see if it's developed into like Grateful Dead jam sessions.
I'm gonna have to have you back just another episode to talk about some of the bands that you've been touring with too, because like I said, there's a few that are not known to me. So
Yeah,
definitely have to pick your brain on some of these artists and see which ones I should be tracking down.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, all of them. I'm
Yeah,
already. I'm fans of all of them already. Yeah, that's cool.
amazing. So the rest of the year, like you'd mentioned, those tour dates are coming up, and by the time people see this too, that probably the 20th date is only like a day or two away from now for viewers. So that's going to wrap up in the very near future, and some people may even be watching this after those tour dates.
Mhm.
So, what kind of plans do you have for yourself for the rest of 2025? Because it is still somewhat early in the year.
Right, right. A couple of festival dates in the summer that I don't think any are announced yet, but
Hmm.
that's in the works. And I do have plans to play again in the fall, but they're looser for now. Like
Sure.
I want to say, I mean, I've been curious. It's really hard to get into the states, but I'm from Newfoundland, and that the idea of playing in the U.S. was like so it seemed impossible.
Yeah.
Now I'm here. I just share a border with Maine. Like, oh, it'd be really cool to just just Boston is like 6 hours from me here. Like,
Yeah, I say that to every New Brunswick artist that I interview, and it's
mm,
not always the case that it's easy. I'm like, but it's the same as your thought. I'm like, logically, it sounds like it should be simple, but I know that
yeah,
it's not always the reality. It might probably come down to your personal network too. So
yeah. There's just a lot of red tape
yours,
that
yeah.
that's and yeah,
We'll keep an eye out for that long term, and definitely when those festival dates are announced, reach out to East Coast DNA and let us know. We'll pop up a post and let people know where you're at and what's happening. And you are invited to come back on a future episode when you have some updates on what's happening in your camp. And I would be happy to chat with any of those bands that are playing with you along the tour too.
great.
So, if people watching this want to keep up to date with you, aside from subscribing to East Coast DNA,
Hmm.
where should they follow you online?
I'm pretty active on Instagram, which is Mark underscore a couple underscores McLaughlin. I think I have a Facebook too, and I recently made a website, markmclaughlin.net.
Perfect. I love the .net. It sticks out because there's the .coms are gone. Like there's the
Yeah,
whole bunch. You can do anything nowadays. So
yeah.
the .net gave it an 80s flair. That's,
Just like the influence of the music too.
yeah.
Unfortunate that, like I said, my old band was Blue, which is ungoogleable, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna have this new project, Mark McLaughlin, and immediately after I post put music out, there's an NHL player with the same name.
Yeah, I saw that when I was doing research that I had to sparse that out of the results when I was looking for information for sure.
Yeah,
It came up quite frequently.
very unfortunate for me. But if he wants to come looking for markmclaughlin.com, he's gotta
Yeah.
come to me. So
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. So I definitely recommend people follow you out there, and hopefully somewhere down below in the description, there's something in the comments that has some of those links there for you as well. I do recommend that people would also pop over to your YouTube channel to check out that video, and while you're there, you must just click that subscribe button there too. You're probably watching this episode on my YouTube channel, so it's probably not that much effort, like 2 clicks. So if anyone stays till the very end of this episode, there should be a little link to watch said music video. But before we leave today, did you want to play off this episode with a song to give people a little taste? Maybe something that's not that single, since I'm going to send people right over to the video.
sure. We could do the title track. It's called All I Can Say.
There you go. That I
Yeah,
can
so that is
say.
the video.
Yeah,
Uh,
perfect.
right. Yeah.
Amazing. So we'll take a little listen here now. Thanks for everyone that tuned in and stayed to the end of the episode here. East Coast DNA is going to be back on the road in the very near future. A little self-congratulatory. I've been nominated for an ECMA this year for Media Person of the Year, so we will be having a presence in Newfoundland one way or another. But in the meantime, definitely subscribe to us here on YouTube. Check out our Instagram. There's been a lot of photos because I've had the opportunity to hit a lot of shows lately. And I do have a lot of episodes in between our music PI coverage and our upcoming ECMA coverage. There's going to be a lot of guests like Mark himself. So definitely recommend that people stay tuned for a lot more content coming from our camp. Follow Mark out there to see what's happening over there. We'll keep you up to date with those festivals when we hear back on what's happening there. And if you have a chance to check one of the current tour dates, I definitely recommend it. And those should also be listed somewhere down below here. So if you're on the East Coast and you have the opportunity, get out there, buy a ticket in advance if possible, and if not, show up day of the show and go out there and support some local acts and celebrate East Coast music. So thanks everyone, and thank you, Mark, and definitely want to keep in touch with you in the future. So talk again soon.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Darcy. Love to come back. Take care.
Bye, everyone.